2025 was an absolutely incredible year, full of innovation, inspiration, and even more opportunity for pharma marketers. Thank you so much for being here with us on the Nth Degree. We look forward to next year with you. We'll see you soon.
Also, athletes are followed by a lot and have a very powerful platform. And many athletes also have interests, whether it is something that they've experienced personally or if they are a caregiver. So, those are ways to tap into it from a pharma lens with sports.
People resonate with sports, whether you're an HCP or you're a patient. It's a great way to reach our healthcare professionals when they're in that white coats off moment. Also, athletes do, like Kelly was saying, they do become a brand ambassador for you. We've seen there's an NHL player who had a family member diagnosed with cancer and became an advocate for the treatments and the drugs. And then Simone Biles during the Olympics, she was an advocate for her mom who has type 2 diabetes. And, they were filming commercials, getting the drugs name out there and getting the awareness out there. So it goes so much further than just the sports enthusiasm. It's such a great place to connect with your audience, whether they be an HCP.
So what we've seen over the past, I want to say about like 2 years or so now, that the influence space is just growing, right? And it's not just outside of healthcare; it's actually growing specifically within healthcare. And we've seen a lot of HCP influencers become these content creators. So outside of their day to day job where they're busy in the hospitals, they're also taking time to develop these specific custom videos across Instagram and TikTok about updating or new data that's being released, anything about new brands that are getting FDA approval, and how patients and caregivers can kind of get those messages and how they might be able to apply them for their specific disease states.
When someone comes up to us and they're interested in influencer, we start by doing identification to see who might be relevant and start vetting appropriate influencers. We also might already have some data from our social intelligence team to tell us who is influential in the space. But from there, we want to find out who's actually creating content, because really the beauty of these programs is to have someone who has their own unique perspective. They're not just sitting there and smiling at the camera and just taking a picture with a product. We're looking for someone who can create content that's unique. And I sort of equate this to sort of working in an industry that you're not totally familiar with. So having an HCP or a patient's perspective, a creative person's not going to be able to have that same storyline. So being able to partner with someone like that, they're just going to have such a unique perspective and tell a story that's just so unique. So finding someone who already has that story in place and can communicate your message is really what we're looking for.
Go onto Google or a search engine, Bing, type in some words, a query, and then they get a result, and that comes back and they head to the website. Now we're seeing more and more users actually go to TikTok, to Instagram, to look for that information and get other users to give them that answer. And we're actually seeing that increase even from just last year, where 40% of Gen Z was doing this. Now we're seeing about 46%. And in pharma specifically, we're jumped up to over 70% of HCPs who are using social to find information.
I think on the social side, very important, obviously, from the TikTok's end, they started rolling out keyword-based advertising, for instance, to really benefit off this user behavior. This isn't strictly speaking new. X, formerly known as Twitter, has leveraged that approach in the past, but really from TikTok's end, seeing more emphasis on that. I think in addition to that, platforms like Reddit, with its enormous amount of user-generated content, have also increased in relevance and importance to a user's search engine. So from that perspective, seeing many different platforms react in different ways to this trend.
Health Minute is our internal custom email offering that we have at CMI. We launched it in late 2022, and seen a lot of consistent growth year over year. And we've had a lot of successful campaigns with many different brands and clients. It works very well, not only as a standalone or base media offering, but also as part of our automated media orchestrator for omni-channel campaigns using that tool. Fully integrates, and it's able to execute daily messaging as well as report back daily physician level data. Many of those campaigns we're seeing open rates well above the industry standard. Our data analytics team shared that the usual open rate is about 11 to 12%. We've seen many campaigns be in like the 13 to 15, and even in a lot of cases, closer to 20% open rates. Same thing with click rates. We've seen the industry standard is around 1%, and we've had plenty of campaigns that have been in that 1.5 to 2% click rate range. But it's also important to highlight too that we've been able to reach 80 to 90% of most target lists in those campaigns in a very cost-effective way that's been able to have unlimited sends as part of our offering rather than contracting by the send. It's all on a fixed fee rate. So we've been able to reach a high percentage of the brand's target list and also have success with getting them to engage and provide return on investment for our brands.
Taking into consideration the trust that's really needed when you're leveraging something like AI, so that you really are building that trust versus coming across as non-sincere.
What Damon had said about attention being a commodity these days, he's so right. And it's getting the attention of our audience, be it professional, patients, and caregivers. Like, that is what we need to do to resonate.
Love the agility event because it's a great opportunity for us all to come together, be in person, and share diverse experiences from across our industry.